Hi, welcome back. My Sims cord ran out of space, so the equipment stopped taping. But we were on the subject that the 400 years of prophecy, because the first, as we had discussed, we were in discussion yesterday, just doing a little brief recap, that the first American slaves arrived, oh, not the first American slave, the first African slaves arrived in Jamestown, Virginia, with those colonists in August of 1619. And about 6 months ago, in August of 2019, marked the 400 years that God's people have been dispersed all over the nations, or all over these nations, and as he states it, amongst their enemies. He states that the people who kidnapped us are our enemies. Now, we may not be enemies to them, but be aware that they are enemies to us, or God would not have called them our enemies. So understand that you can be good to a person, but if they're your enemies, you can treat them as good as gold, but they'll still turn around and stab you in the back, or whatever type of deceitful tactics that they are about, because it's just within them if they are an enemy. So if the Bible is calling them enemies, then just be on guard. You may not be an enemy to them, but if a person's an enemy to you, you still have to watch your back. So I'm going to be talking to you about what's going on. Well, we read Deuteronomy 30, 1 through 20, which is present day prophecy happening right before your eyes. Because many of God's people whose identity had been removed from their lives, their languages, and have you ever thought about the fact that every other ethnic group has and knows their language? But do those whose ancestors who were brought here as slaves, and who after a period of time became free, maybe physically, but they still have gone through a whole lot of invisible slavery? What do you mean by invisible slavery? Living in the worstest areas, carrying and holding the lowest paid jobs, being basically people of injustice, not being treated fairly. The system, they get caught up in hung juries, they get caught up with these appointed attorneys who aren't working for their defense, but they're actually working for the system to condemn you. Okay? And people, most of the prison makes up the majority of God's people. He says that his people are hidden in prison houses. And we'll even go over that. I'm hoping to do that so that you can have an idea of what's going on today in the lives of God's people. Isn't it amazing that the majority of single-parent families are God's Hebrewic women? We are the ones that are raising kids as widows. We're not widows. You know, we fell in love and thought that this person would be in our life for life, and then we got caught up in a situation. Understand that it's not like other ethnic groups don't get caught up in our situation. It's just that they hide. Where we have our children, they abort theirs. They go into another state or another town, and they will have their kids aboard their children just to keep keep their family from being disgraced, stuff like that. They murder their children where we have and keep and raise ours. That's the difference. But understand that we're going to talk about these too. I have possessed pretty much every card out there that's possessible. And God has blessed me to have wisdom with how to use these cards. And I want to help you to understand how to use credit cards. All of these cards here are now closed. I have zero balances on all these cards, and I am completely debt-free, owing no more man anything. And I'm just continually banking up money. Just bought a really nice sports car, paid cash for it. Because understand that these can get you in a lot of trouble if you don't use them with wisdom. But I'll just tell you in a nutshell. When you apply for these cards, your interest rate, is probably going to be pretty high because they're hoping that you'll go out and run the card up to the maximum. If you have a $2,000 limit, they're hoping you'll run it up to the maximum use of the card. And then when the bill comes in and you can only send them in $50, then that means they're making and profiting off of you through interest. This is how these cards work. Now what I did, I flipped the script. I only charged up, I used these cards basically just to build up my credit. And I held an excellent credit history for at least 30 years. And then when I moved out of my house and, the businesses didn't work out in the way that I had hoped, I had to end up paying off all these cards and I just closed out the accounts. Well, sometimes they'll try to block you from being reestablished with credit when they know that you know what you're doing. See, these cards are designed for gullible people that they can profit from. But when it's a person that has wisdom and intelligence, they're not going to make any money off of me because they know that I understand how this works and I know how to use it to my advantage. So I will not profit them. But young, gullible people are the ones that they're hoping, particularly the poor. Why? Because the poor are the ones who's not going to be able to pay off their balances in full. But yet, they have an eye to want to be like the Joneses. I'm going to get this big screen TV. I'm going to get this, and I'm going to get that, and I'm going to get this. And they're not, and they're living above their means. If you're not making a lot of money, then it would not be wise to run up these cards. So do not run these cards up to the max. Use them as you would, let's say for instance, if you got paid $500 a week, then don't run up no more than about $100 or $150. Why? Because you still have to eat. You still have other bills that's coming in. So you have to only live within your means. And just use these to build up your credit, to establish your credit. Do not use these as a way of gaining tangible items, buying merchandise. Don't use these. Don't think of these like that, or you're going to get yourself in debt. Use these to say, well, I'm just going to establish a good, clean history for the next couple of years. Then I'll be able to buy that nice living room set I like, or to get transportation, or to do, things that are necessary. But use these to establish your credit, to build up a good credit history so that you can purchase a house. Remember when I told you how I was a single parent of 2 kids and I had a home on almost half acres of land and I had 4 vehicles and a truck? Well, this opened the door for me to do a lot of that. But I used this to build up. See, before I went into that house, what I did first, I rented until all of my furnishings inside of my tri-level townhome were completely paid for in full. And when my vehicle was completely paid for in full, and I had completely zero debt, and I had money banked up. So don't be too quick to do too much. You gotta crawl before you walk. So you have to devise a plan. Rent, pay off all of your furniture first. Get your vehicle paid off first. And by that time, you should have your credit set up where you have a good, pretty good record of having a good credit. Now, they've been blocking me for reopening my credit cards because they know they're not going to profit from me. But they will profit from people like you who do not understand how credit works. So I'm telling you now how credit works. Only charge up what you can pay off in full when your bill arrives. And when your bill does arrive, remember, it's important to get your payment in before the due date. So as soon as your bill comes in, you should be able to fill in the needed information, like the amount you're sending, which should be, if you charged up $50, write the check for $50 and mail it ASAP, immediately. Why? Because out of sight, out of mind. If you go lay it somewhere and you forget about it and it gets past the due date, then that's a late payment for you. So what you want to do is, when you see the bill, fill it out that same day and mail it off the next day. Or better yet, set up where your payments can be auto-debited from your checking account, from your bank account. And that way, each month before the due date, you know, I set mine up a whole week before whatever my payment date would be. And it will automatically be debited or deducted from your checking account. When you put your check, you know, you have your money deposited into your account, it will be automatically deducted from your account. Now, these are a lot of credit cards, but all these credit cards have zero balances and have been paid off in full, and they're all closed, okay? But I have been blessed to be in such a position where I'm able to pay cash, straight cash for things. And guess what? Look at how much interest I've saved. Most people who go out and get a car, they get a car loan. And a loan, they make lots of money off of you, just like credit cards, in interest. So I've been blessed where I am able to just set aside money and I'm able to pay cash for the things that I desire. That's a blessing, because not only am I no longer in anybody's debt, but look at how much money I am saving as opposed to going into years to pay back a loan. Okay, so that's how you use credit cards. Something told me to just hold on to these. I was going to cut them all up. And then some told me one day, you might need to explain these cards to somebody. So don't be so quick to cut them up. So I'm explaining these cards to you because I'm busy a lot. So now I hope you have learned something from credit cards. And I've had pretty much every card that is out there. Okay, so understand how these cards work. Do not let them benefit from you, but you benefit from them. Okay? All right, so next, what we're going to do is go into the 16, 19, and the 2019, which is 400 years. 400 years that God's people have been scattered all over the nations outside of their land. But see, God has already preordained that based upon our choices is what we would endure as a people. Now He's waking us up, because He made it clear in Deuteronomy He's going to put us back in our land. But not just put us back in our land, this time we're going to be planted. When you plant a tree, that tree remains in that exact same position, never to be moved. Have you ever seen a tree walk or run? No. When you plant that tree, you can years ago back, and that tree will remain in that exact same spot. And that's what God is saying. I'm going to put you all, you know, even though I had to whoop you all double for your sins, He says, and even 7 times for your sins. Why? Because we knew in advance the consequences, and yet we still dropped the ball. So we're without excuse. Okay? And God said these things were happening because He's a God that cannot lie. His truth went into motion. Those curses kicked into motion automatically because of what we did. And I mean, God was furious with us. But He looks upon our fathers. He looks upon Abraham, on Isaac, on Jacob. He looks upon our fathers. And King David, he looks upon their obedience. And he'll say, you know, for my servant David's sake, or for my friend Abraham, he'll look back on their sake, and he'll remember his covenant, and he'll have mercy on us today because of them. So they pretty much like shielded us. You know, we get a spanking. That's just like when I pray again for my generational seed. Some of them are going to clown and do things, but God's going to chasten them. He's going to give them a whooping. And then he's going to draw them back to him and have mercy on them. Why? Because of my prayers. He's going to say, you know, I remember her prayers, and she has tried diligently to walk right before me and to walk in my will and in my way, in God's will and in God's way, not my own. So he's like, well, you know, because she has tried to do the right thing, and she's prayed and petitioned her generational seed and put them before me, I'm going to honor her prayer upon all of you all. And that's what Solomon did even for us. When Solomon prayed, he prayed for his generational seed down the line. So when people say you can't pray for your seed, you can show them where Solomon did. And Solomon was someone that God chose to be king, and he even put his wisdom in his heart. So if God put his wisdom in Solomon's heart, and Solomon's wisdom was to pray for his seed down the road, then why would you not do the same? So don't let people hinder you from blessing your seed. You know, some people, they don't have a heart to trust God, and they want to hinder you from having a heart to trust God. Look, in the end, the only one that's going to be there to pick you up is God. Believe that. If you are sick on your deathbed, the only person who can really lift you up is God. Because there are some people that could be in extraordinarily good health and just drop dead. Why? Because it was their time. And when it becomes your time, whether God says something happens to you that's horrific and God says it's not time for you to leave, you're not going to leave. Or you could be in the epitome of good health, and he could say, come on, it's time to go. And breath will leave your body, and you will die. So don't sit up here and look at man and think that he can instruct you above God's wisdom. No. I mean, he cannot. So keep your eyes on God. But now we're going to read some scriptures where God is not only going to have the people who dispersed us all over the nations, who brought us here against our will, who abducted us and brought our ancestors here against their will, but their generational descendants, their sons, their descendants are going to have to take us back. And we're waking up now at the mark of 400 years. Now you tell me prophecy isn't amazing. Yes, it is. And then, as I had even foretold or shown them in scripture, the aftermath effects of an atomic bomb. I think I'm going to try to show you that today as well, because I will start getting prepared for my next job, so I won't be having all this ample time that I've been having to just let these videos run as we go over things. So, because I'm preparing for a second retirement, and at that time, I'm going to be just doing a lot of things, going wherever the Lord leads me, in whatever ways he uses me to his will to do. Because I truly do delight in the things of God. But can you imagine if I had to speak all of this to every individual person? Doesn't it make sense to put it on a video where you can just air it and more people can watch it on a video, as opposed to you going from person to person explaining the exact same thing? I can just give them the information to the video, and then they can just go watch it at their leisure, and repeatedly, if there's something that they missed, they can always go back. So understand, God has been awesome to me. I mean, he has truly been a wonderful God in my life. And so get to know him. I always say that to my kids, get to know him. He's an awesome God. And when you see his awesomeness, don't take him for granted. You know, like when we get fat and well fed, and then we think we did something and we forget about God. Do not do that. Remember that God is the one who blessed you and gave you wealth or gave you awesomely good health, lifted you off of your sick bed or your deathbed. God did these things. So always remember his goodnesses and always bless him. Him, not yourself. Don't think that you did something, because then you'll be done gotten yourself in trouble, because you'll be done fallen in sin by glorifying you rather than the one who actually helped you. Okay? So we're going to go into some scriptures about what God is about to do with his people. And once the people across the nations understand why so much is going to take place on this earth and what it is that they're going to have to do, then believe me, they're going to do it. Because when God wants to hit you, he can hit you in ways that you'll wish you were dead. And he'll say, no, I'm going to make you suffer to live, and I'm going to make you live to suffer. You're going to stay here so you can just get a whooping. And then they will say, look, hey, whatever you want, no problem. What is it that you want? Well, my people are telling you what I want. You all brought them here, and you all are going to take them back. And you're going to be good to them, and guess what? You're going to overwhelm them with your forces. Whatever they need, you're going to give them. You're going to bow before them. Some of you are going to kiss our feet, our descendants' feet. You're going to hate us, but you're going to have no choice but to come to us. Why? Because all the rest of the world is going to be filled with gross darkness. And the only light is going to be where we're going to be. And you're either going to dwell like a blind man trying to find your way, or you're going to get with the group and say, there's a light far off. I'm heading in that direction. So you're going to have to come before us. The ones who hate us today, the ones who have brutally hated and mistreated our ancestors years ago, you're going to have to come before us. Your descendants are going to have to come before us. You know, so all I can say, and I know that there's a lot of people that are not Hebrew, but they are for us, and they know us. Those people are going to be blessed with us. Okay, I'm going to read and show you what I'm meaning by that. And understand, Hebrews, do not take God's goodness that he's going to bestow upon you and abuse it. Don't use it to try to flex your muscles and show off. Be humble. That's what God draws to, is the humble. These people here who are acknowledging truth and who God really are, they will not be our servants. Do you understand that? Because if you mistreat these people who are openly acknowledging truth, and they are professing, even though they aren't English-speaking people, in their actions, they are making it absolutely without a doubt that they know who we are, they know who the Messiah is, they know truth, and they are humbly reverencing and acknowledging those truths. Those people will be our dear friends. Why? Because they're not our enemies. They're not our haters, and they're not our persecutors. So they're not affected by the curses that our enemies will be affected by, who are guilty. These people are not guilty. And we are going to view them as dear friends, because they will be our dear friends. They've done us no harm, and we will do them no harm. Okay? They will not be our servants. Because if you mess with these people, understand this prayer right now. I pray God's chastenings upon you to knock you down and to get you where you need to be. And that's humble before God, and to not think more of yourself than what you are. Because if it weren't for God, you would still be a slave back then. If God's just truths didn't just start coming to play. He hid his face for a moment. But that moment was years in our time. But he could have made you born back in the time of slavery, when the Klan was terrorizing every black that had just became free, who could not find their way back home to their land. They were free with nothing but the clothes on their back, or maybe 1 or 2 days rations of food. But all the labor that they labored, they took none of that with them. Okay? They just were set free. Then they were hunted and terrorized and abused and mistreated. All types of horrific things took place once they became free and on their own and ventured out the best they could, because anything was better than being a slave. Anything was better than being whipped, having your back lashed up, and all the brutal mistreatments that some of them had to endure. They just took their chances to hit the road. Now, you could have been born in that era, but God put you in this era, in an area where He's about to do mighty things before your face. So when you see these plagues come upon these nations, plague after plague after plague after plague, they're going to understand that something's not right. And when they start seeking, why is this happening, and they know what it is that God wants, you all did a lot to my people, and I gave you place to do it because of their sins. But now, as with Egypt, you're going to set them free, and you're going to take them back home. Where Egypt just was thrust out, they have to take us back home. It says that their sons are going to take us back home. And on top of that, all the nations are going to bow before us, and they're going to bring their wealth to us. And it's going to be so much going on, it's going to be scary. You're going to be like, whoa, I mean, these people hated us. And now look at what they're restoring all kind of riches on us. That's what God is going to force them to do, or they will die. It tells you that the nations that will not serve you will perish. So they will have no choice but to serve you or die. And then you're going to have some that are going to die. But one thing they don't understand is that when they die, hell follows. Why? Because you was disobedient to the will of God. He said all nations will serve you. So the nation that won't serve you are going to perish. And what happens when we die in our sins and being in opposition or defiant with God? That's not definitely going to make it into God's eternal paradise. So they will die, or however, but their soul is not going to go into God's eternal kingdom. Well, let me go before this turns, and I got to put in a password and all that. Let's get started on planting. Okay, I'm just going to go over some scriptures. I'm sorry, I need to come across here real quick. It's too much light that's coming in. So I'm going to come and get rid of some of this light so that you can see the screen. My apologies, I should have done that first. Okay, so that the screen is a little more visible to you. And remember, be humble, because humbleness is vitally important with God. If you act exalted, He will abase you. And those that humble themselves will be exalted. So please remember that, Hebrews, so you don't get yourself in trouble. Okay, this is just some scriptures in different books of the Old Testament scripture, which is written to the Hebrews, about what God is going to be doing in our future, and because it's at the mark of 400 years that we've been scattered across the nations outside of our land, okay, that God is He's awakening us. Amazing. All across the nations we are waking up. But it says here, moreover, I will appoint a place for my people Israel, and will plant them, that they may dwell in a place of their own, and move no more. neither shall the children of wickedness afflict them anymore as before time. And you're saying, well, but we're all over here, and there's other people that are over in the lands that that's supposed to be our land. Well, rumor has it that Adolf Hitler tried to prevent them from going into God's land once God did take us out of our land and scatter us across the nation. And he was trying to prevent them from what was rumored from going into those lands. But he feared that his efforts were not gonna, he wasn't gonna be able to stop them. So, but isn't it amazing how in these nations we're taught that Hitler is a horrible person? Why do you think that the history books specifically, out of all these other people who have done all kinds of things, think about Pearl Harbor, how they came and they set all these bomb areas of the U.S. and all that. Well, how come they not talking about the person who set that up and did those horrific things? I mean, how come they're not talking about, boasting on how the Klan, how the brutal mistreatments that they did against blacks for absolutely no reason whatsoever? How come those things aren't printed in the history books? Okay, but yet they want to talk about Hitler. Well, that's because Hitler knew who we were and was trying to help us, and because they were doing everything they could to try to destroy us, they were in opposition to Hitler. Right here it says, this is a scripture that tells you, so you got to understand that when people try to make you hate somebody, it's probably for a reason. Okay. Okay, I'm going to read this and then I'm going to read something else. And they said in their hearts, let us destroy them together. They have burned up the synagogues of God in the land. So they purposely tried to sabotage us. It tells you that the name of Israel will be no more in remembrance. That's how that's worded. I figured it. Get on the right keys. Okay. Because I have a feeling I did not. Okay. And it says, they have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may no more be in remembrance. This is the reason why they sold our children away from their parents young, so that there would be no one that would be able to teach those children anything about their history, their true history. And so this was to cut them off from a nation. Because think about this. How is it that every other ethnic group of people have a language except us? How many of us who have slave ancestors who can speak their native language before their ancestors were brought here as slaves? How many of us can speak our true native language? How many of us know exactly what specific area we even came from? How many of us even know what tribe we're from? You got to remember, Israel had 12 sons and a daughter. How do we know specifically if we are Judah? Because I know it does state that the dispersed of Judah, it calls Judah the dispersed. Oh. Okay, it goes into okay. Okay, maybe it's this way. Okay, maybe not. Okay. Okay. This should be an Old Testament. So I thought. I know it's not in the New Testament. Okay, I would have to open up Isaiah 43. Okay, let me go to Isaiah 43. Okay, I'm going to start at 4. It says, Then since thou wast precious in my sight, thou hast been honorable, and I have loved thee. Therefore will I give men for thee, and people for thy life. Fear not, for I am with thee. I will bring thy seed from the east, and gather thee from the west. I will say unto the north, Give up, and to the south, Keep not back. Bring my sons from afar, and my daughters from the ends of the earth. And, even everyone that is called by my name. For I have created him for my glory. I have formed him, I have made him. But that's even though that's telling you that he's going to collect us from every part. I'm trying to think some. Wasn't that the dispersed? Oh, okay. Okay, I guess if I could spell, that would help, huh? Okay. So let's see if this is, oh, really? Oh, that's because I keep leaving out the S. Okay. Okay. I'm hoping this is it. Okay, all right. I'm just going to say dispersed. Disperse. Oh, burst. I put dispersed. Dispersed. Okay. I think it's dispersed, not dispersed. Dispersed. Am I right? I wish you could tell me. Maybe not. Dispersed. Dispersed of Judah. Okay, well, look, I don't have the truth. I don't have the patience of Job, so let me try to just pull up of Judah. And I know it's going to be up probably, I knew it, but it's in Old Testament. Okay, I know it's among the, like in either Jeremiah or something along those lines, and it's telling you, because those are the prophets. But the dispersed of Judah, the Bible states that a lot of us have been separated. Here it is. Okay. I figured it was, I knew, oh no, don't tell me. Goodness. How in the world did I find it and turn right around? Oh, here it is. Isaiah 11:12. Should have looked at it. Okay, it says, and he shall set up an ensign for the nations. He's going to set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcast of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. So that's to say that the true Israelites who have been out of that land, the outcast of Israel, but it says, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. So that's to say that Judah is the one who has been spread amongst these nations. Okay, that's basically what that's saying. But there's others that will say that, as we had previously read, that will call, when it say where God will call us, oh, okay, and this is in Old Testament, and it says, I will say to the north, give up, and to the south, keep not back. Bring my sons from afar, and my daughters from the ends of the earth. So see, you got to understand, God is just going to speak it, and there's nothing else that can hinder. There's nothing that's going to be able to hinder it. Okay, why is it that all these typos I'm noticing? WH give up, WH give up. How are all these typos coming up? I should open up my Bible and see if it's just within this Word app or if it's actually within print. But I'm noticing a lot of different errors, as we had noticed one even yesterday. But understand that God is going to put you back in your land. And there is nothing that anybody on this earth will be able to do to stop it. Nothing. Just like when God told us, once our ancestors sinned, and let's go into Daniel. It says, good thing I'm kind of, okay, where I know this much should be, and then we'll just go into the book of Daniel looking for it. Really? Okay. So we'll have to just look for motion in the book of Daniel. And you have got to be kidding me, right? So this app, it must be something strange about this app, because I know that is scriptural. Okay. Let me see something. Book of Daniel. Oh no. Okay. Let me say Daniel 1. Well, as a matter of fact, I'll just say Daniel 5. Because it was about in that area. Because even Daniel acknowledges what took place. Oh, that was Nebuchadnezzar, that Daniel was issued a different name. But let me see, because he's telling us what had taken place. And Daniel's, oh yeah, that's when that happened. Okay, that's not what I'm looking for. But anyways, motion should be in the Bible. But let me look up curse. I'm not sure why, and I know sometimes, and this is in the book of Daniel. Okay, because I do know that sometimes old, what do you call it? Old English can have some variations in the way that they do spell, that they did spell. Where is little Daniel at? Yep, cursed be the man that obeys not the word of this covenant. That's what got us in trouble. Well, I mean, where is Daniel? I know, and it shouldn't be back this far, but Daniel should be just before the prophets. Let me slow down, because it might just be one little, okay, past Kings, Chronicles, and Nehemiah. Okay. Okay, that's weird. Okay, there it is. Okay. Oh. Okay. You gotta excuse me. I'm kind of a perfectionist sometimes. Sometimes I get on my own nerves. Okay, this thing, I'm having a problem with this cursor having its own mind. But even in Daniel, it says, YAH, or ye, all Israel have transgressed thy law, even by departing, that they might not obey thy voice. Therefore the curse is poured upon us, and the oath that is written in the law of Moses, the servant of God, because we have sinned against him. Okay, I thought it must have said, okay, therefore the curse is poured upon us. I thought I read that it was in motion, but it still is telling you that as a result of our transgressions, that we didn't obey God's voice, therefore the curse is poured upon us, and the oath that is written by the law of Moses, the servant of God, because we have sinned against him. We brought all this upon ourselves, and there's just absolutely no excuse or way of getting around it. Okay, we have to accept the responsibility for the fact that we messed up. That's all there's to it. You know, maybe not you, maybe not me, but we pay the consequential sins of their actions. So you may as well say we did it. Why? Because we got whooped. You know, we might not have actually did the sin of forgetting, not teaching our kids, and we have been guilty of serving other gods since we've been scattered across these nations. And it says, moreover, I will appoint a place for my people Israel, and I will plant them, that they may dwell in a place of their own and move no more, neither shall the children of wickedness afflict them anymore as before time. So we will not be mistreated by people who hate us because we happen to be dark-skinned and or looked upon as with zero intelligence, so to speak. Also, I will ordain a place for my people Israel, and will plant them, and they shall dwell in their place, and shall be moved no more. Neither shall the children of wickedness waste them anymore, as at the beginning. So we're going to be shielded, because see, when we're following God and we're trying to live right before God, we don't have a heart of all these evil things that people would do to us, we wouldn't do to them. You know, when you have a merciful, compassionate, forgiving, and loving heart, you wouldn't do wrong to anybody. But that's not to say that people won't do wrong to you. Remember when we looked at a sign where a guy said gullibleness is what it was a con artist sign. It's somewhere in there. But he was saying that the gullible was his cup of tea, taking advantage of the of people who just were honest hearted. But understand though, a person of wisdom that's prudent, they wouldn't deal with him. Somebody approaching him off the street, no, I gotta go, take care. They wouldn't even waste their time talking to him. Because when he come up to you with this great big old smile, and I have something for you, you already know that it's nothing but crap. Okay? For I will set mine eyes upon them for good, and I will bring them again to this land. He's going to bring us again to this land, and I will build them and not pull them down, and I will plant them and not pluck them up. Yeah, I will rejoice over them to do them good, and I will plant them in this land assuredly with my whole heart and with my whole soul. I will plant them upon their land, not somebody else's land, but their land, our ancestors' land. And they shall no more be pulled up out of their land which I have given them, saith the Lord thy God. The only land that God had ever given us was the land of Israel. So you're saying, yeah, but it's Jews, the real Jews. Jews is not even possible in the languages of Hebrew, Greek, and Latin. That Jerusalem, Jericho, Jews, Jesus, and all that was created by this image here. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see. Nope. Okay. It might be in here somewhere. I have so many folders. Wow. I mean, I've spent a lot of time trying to prepare more than enough as opposed to just not enough. I was going to say I'm surprised it's not in here. That was a deception created by this group here. Okay. This is a Christianity was created by these group of people here. White hooded, pointing up to the sky, hateful racist. They're the ones who created Christianity. Okay? So moving on. And it's not the only thing they've created, but their days are coming. Don't even worry yourself. Don't even fret yourself about them. Believe me, their days are coming. And remember when it tells you that in Psalm 74 where we read, let me read Psalm 74 for you real quick before I pull this up. And understand that, I mean, you don't have to do anything to people for them to hate you. That's really truly amazing. That you don't have to do anything to people for them to hate you. It's just the spirit that's in them. If they have a demonic spirit dwelling in them, and you're a spirit that's of God, you have God's spirit dwelling within you, you two aren't going to mix. It's just like trying to mix water and fire. You can't mix two opposing elements. One is going to overpower the other. It says, thine enemies roar in the midst of the congregation. They set up their ensign for a sign. Didn't we just see where they set up their sign, Jesus saves? And even the image. This is the sign that they created, that they came up with. This is not the God that we follow. This is the God that they follow. Oh, come on. What was I looking for? This is the sign that they follow. Okay. Christianity. See, this is what they created. Actually, the Catholic Church, I believe, had some to do with this as well. Because the image, Caesar Borgia, who Jesus was fashioned after, he was a cardinal within the Catholic Church. And when he died, his image was fashioned into this image. And of course, because they stated once that the Statue of Liberty, they brought it over as being a black woman, and they refused it. And then they reconstructed it to look like a white woman, then it was accepted. So if they found out that the Messiah was truly black, then they had to find a way to make it fit what they felt was truth, and everything about them is a lie. And we're going to learn that as well. Because the ones that you think are right or wrong, and vice versa. Okay, and this is showing just images of what they're believing Caesar Borgia looked like, and that his image was fashioned after. So this is just what is out there that's rumored, that all of his images is fashioned after this man here who passed. Once he passed, it was fashioned after his image. Okay? So that you will understand how his image came to be, and why you should not have this image in your home. Okay? And then you go on the internet, and it will give you more in-depth information about the deception. Because when you read Revelation, let's read Revelation. And as we read Revelation, I want you to look at these two images and tell me, after reading Revelation, which one of these images, and we're going to read Revelation, which is going to give us a description of the Messiah. Now, he is pale-faced with light eyes and long, stringy brown hair. He has dark brown skin tone, and his eyes are dark, but his hair is the color of white, but it's the texture of wool. His hair is straight. Now, going by that, and it shows his eyes to be kind of bloodshot, but his hair is the color of white, but the texture of wool. His hair is the color of brown, but it's long and straight, and his eyes are light, and his face is pale. Okay, not white, because this is the color of white, and it don't seem to me as if he looks this color. Okay, you see where that red light is shining? That's white. He is not white. He does not look the color of this. So he's not white, but he is a paler. He's pale in color. I wouldn't say pink, more like egg yolk. You know, have you seen one of them brownish looking kind of eggs that's not white, but it's off-white? Maybe like an off-white or kind of paler color. But let's read what the Bible says about the description of the Messiah. Oh no, let me finish reading this, then we'll go to that. It says, for the enemy roar in the midst of the congregation. They set up their ensign for a sign. Throughout America, we see a white Messiah that I just showed you. It says a famous man, a man was famous according as he had lifted up his axe upon the thick trees. But now they break down the carved works thereof at once with the axes and the hammer. I'm going to show you that too, how they've destroyed all of our what God says to post it on your doorpost and or whatever, so that you have a remembrance. But they destroyed all of our original truths and replaced it with their lies and their deceits. But now they break down the carved work thereof at once with axes and hammers. They have cast fire into thy sanctuary. They have defiled by casting down the dwelling place of thy name to the ground. So they have came in and tried to erase everything. Because see, even though the adults might remember it, they'll die one day, and who will be there to teach the children? Well, let's put it this way. They were taken off into slavery at the time that this happened. They have cast fire into the sanctuary. They have defiled by casting down the dwelling place of thy name to the ground. They have said in their hearts, within their hearts, let us destroy them together. They have burned up all the synagogues of God in the land. Synagogues is a church, a place of worship. We see not our signs, because they destroyed all their signs. There is no more any prophet, neither is there among us any that knoweth how long. So they don't even know how long. It says, God, how long shall the adversary reproach? Shall the enemy blaspheme thy name forever? And when you think about how long we've been here a long time. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of us are anxious to go back to our land, because God said that he's going to do some things. And now that he's waking us up and now we're learning who we are, we're becoming anxious. Why? Because when you find out what God's going to do to you in your land, you're not going to want to stay here beneath somebody else's foot, not knowing if you'll get pulled over and murdered, shot down, some white cop emptying out his gun on you after asking you to show him your license. And so when you go in your purse to pull out your license, he just start firing away and shooting you because he's a gun-hole, bloodthirsty white cop. Really? Who wants to stay here? Who wants to stay here making crumbs when you can be over there receiving riches beyond your imagination, never having to do manual labor again? Really? And then not to mention the fact that wherever you travel in your land will know you. We just read how the trees and the hills, they're going to clap when you come back. They're going to know you. Amazing. Why? Because you're going to be a fish back in your environment. You're going to be a fish back in what you know, water. You're going to be right back where you belong. And you're going to click and sink. I mean, it's going to be so much blessing that's going to overwhelm you. It's going to be scary. It's going to be scary at first. It's going to take, if somebody takes you out of an impoverished situation of suffering, and then all of a sudden they put you in a huge mansion, and someone comes around and they're serving you, you almost don't know what to do about that, or how to respond. If they say, sir, or ma'am, what would you like for breakfast? What would you like for lunch? How would you like to dine? You don't even know. You probably say, oh, I'll take a burger and some fries. You don't know anything about nutrition, about health, about food. All you know is what you've always known, is burgers and fries. Look, God has awesome things waiting for you. Okay? So you will no longer, even once God gets you where you know you're okay, you're good, nobody's going to mess with you again, then you can relax. But we've been so stressed. We've been on pins and needles, always having to watch our back, always trying to figure out who's trying to knock us down now. Wow, I just went, I made a run yesterday. And do you know I had 2 vehicles following me? One vehicle following me up close. And I let him know, I knew he was following me, and no sooner than he got off me, another one tried to get on me at a distance back. But see, when God is in your life, he will show you things. He will make things visible to you. And when I let him know that I knew he was on me too, I even took a picture of his vehicle, then they backed off. Now, that's crazy. Am I correct? I'm actually currently now in a state that I don't reside in, but people will watch you. But as they watch you, God will make you aware. He will give you a discernment. He'll give you a knowing of what's going on. So then when I'm taking pictures of them, and I'm going to tell you, you start taking pictures of people, they'll get far from you. Why? Because you got the evidence right in your phone of what vehicle they were driving, what they look like. The last thing that any criminal wants to do is to be easily identified. All I got to do is show them that vehicle, and they'll know exactly what car it is, or the image of the person, and they will know exactly who he is. And when people are doing dirt, they're not wanting to be identified. But whenever you are doing the work for God, expect that people are going to watch you. They're going to be looking for a way to sabotage and bring you down and set you up. Why? Because they don't want you to know what I'm teaching you. But see, God told me and let me know to put forth his truths, and that's exactly what I'm doing. And even if they don't air these videos, that's going to be on them. Why? Because they trying to block God's truth. They're just going to bring curses, not just upon themselves, but also their seed. So not only are they going to be punished, but they're going to cause their own seed to become punished throughout their generations. They're going to have all types of deformalities in their families, and just issues and problems and vexations and curses. Why? Messing with me. Because I'm not the one that's going to deal with them. It's God that's going to deal with them. And understand this much about God. When you decide you want to come against his people, it is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. He'll bring their worstest fears against them, because God is not going to play with you. You mess with his people, he will knock you down in ways you never even thought you could fall. And I ain't got to do nothing. Why? Because God already knows my enemies. God already knows who's for me and who's against me. He already knows these things. I don't have to worry about who they are. God already sees them. I don't have to say, well, Lord, I don't know my enemies. You don't have to know them. God knows them. Didn't it tell you that the eyes of the Lord are in every place, beholding the evil and the good? There's nothing that anybody's doing. These little so-called invisible empires thinking that they're invisible. You're not invisible to God. And that's the one who's going to judge your soul. So really, and then it says, for I will set mine eyes upon them for good, and I will bring them again to this land, and I will build them and not pull them down, and I will plant them and not pluck them up. And then it says, yeah, I will rejoice over them to do them good, and I will plant them in this land assuredly with my whole heart and with my whole soul. I will plant I will plant them upon their land, their ancestors' land, and they shall no more be pulled up out of their land which I have given them. He's already given us that land, saith the Lord thy God. And so you have to understand, you're saying, well, there's other people in that land now. Yeah, but these are the people that's in that land now. These are the people that are in that land. I really don't like going into New Testament scriptures. But this is telling you about the people who are currently there that God is going to deal with. It says, for these be the days of vengeance. God will avenge you. You don't have to even worry about avenging yourself. That all things which are written may be fulfilled. Everything that God said is going to happen. But woe unto them that are with child, and them that give suck in those days. It says, for there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. It's talking about our land, and wrath upon us as a people. It says, and they shall fall by the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. That's us. And Jerusalem, and while we are gone away and dispersed into all nations, it says, and Jerusalem, or Israel, shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, people who are not God's people, until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. They're on a time limit. Pretty soon God is going to be getting them out of that land, because he's going to be putting us back into it. Now you can't possibly know what God is going to do to make that happen. But it says here, and there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon earth distress of nations. What's going on today? And upon the earth, all these nations, what? Distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them for fear, and for looking after those things which are to come on the earth. And the power of heaven shall be shaken. And then it says, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. But what are we going through right now as we speak? Distress of nations, operating in fear. Why? Because there's a plague going on throughout all these nations that man cannot combat. And even if God wants, he can send even other plagues. This might be to them a wake-up call that they're not in control. God is in control. Because see, if they were in control, nobody would be dead. How many people died from Cornova as of now? How many people have this perplexity taken out so far? And why? Well, number one, these nations are very sinful, operating Sodom and Gomorrah type of sins. All kinds of just wildness and abominations before God. I mean, men marrying men, women marrying women, priests raping and sucking the penises of infants and crazy, just the most sickest, perverted stuff is going on. And that can bring about God's plagues to judge these nations. And then we're also at the mark of 400 years of being out of our land. God is about to take us back home. And what he may be letting these nations know, you about to free my people up. I'm about to tell you that what I want you to do. You brought them here, and you gonna send them back home. You gonna dig in your pockets, because who do you think controls the currency in this country? Who do you think has big money built up in their accounts while God's people are working jobs, getting paycheck, little bitty amounts of money, living paycheck by paycheck, barely ever making so little money that they're barely ever even able to make it to their next paycheck, having to borrow money from people just to get by until they get their next paycheck. You know, I mean, just down and scuffling and suffering. These are God's people. And yet the heathens, I'm gonna read you here. Because see, they're the ones who and let me explain to you all another thing. Okay, how do you spell synagogue? Oh, I don't even know how to spell synagogue. I got it in my mind, partly synagogue. No. No, that don't look right either. Okay. Let me just put this in. And then we'll go all the way down here. See, God, what we don't know, God knows, and what we can't see, God can't see. It says, I know thy works and tribulations and poverty, but thou art rich. But I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Okay? So God knows that the people who are proclaiming to be Jews are really liars, and they're really of the devil. Why do we say the synagogue of Satan? How can so many priests be molesting young boys? Because you know that the ones who are in those types of things, they're men and boys. How is it that so many boys are becoming molested and raped or whatever? Because if the devil wasn't active there, this couldn't be the case. How possibly? Let me see if I hate to even try to pull this up. Let me read this before I even do it. It says, "Behold, I will make them the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do what? They do lie." How many scriptures have we read about lying? And it says, "Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee." Didn't we just read that they will be coming and bowing and kissing our feet? Yes, we did read that. Okay, we read that in my previous video. And actually, they're already doing that. Come to think of it, as a matter of fact, they're already bowing before God's people. And because see, I mean, even still now, you have them bowing. Wait a minute. Okay. Oh wow, I have so many things. It's hard for me to try to figure out where all this is, but I could probably even just pull this up. Um, but they are already bowing before. Um, but that's humility too, because I'm gonna tell you, God is about to do some amazing things in this earth to show you who's in control. And I know that man would like to say that or think that they're in control, but no, they are not. They are not in control. Okay, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time. Oh, okay, that's what I was supposed to do. Okay, so I'm going to read Revelation 1, and then I want you to tell me, as we read the description of the Messiah, who does this description fit? It says, "And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to his foot, with girts about the paps, with a golden girdle." Okay, now it's giving you a description of a physical description of him. His head and his hairs were white like wool. Well, we know a person's head can't be wool, but it's saying his head and his hairs were white like wool. It could mean that his head on the hair on his head and the hairs on his face, like his mustache and beard, were white like wool, because a head can't be wool. Okay, but if the color was white, but the texture was wool, as white as snow. And his eyes were as a flame of fire, and his feet, because they wore long garments, like unto fine brass, as if it were burned in a furnace. So if it were the color of brass, which is brown, and then you put it in a fiery furnace, it doesn't get light, it gets darker. When you burn something, it turns black. It don't turn white, it turns black. It says, and his voice as the sound of many waters. So now we just read that his hairs were like wool, with the color of white, and his feet like unto fine brass, as if it were burned in a furnace. So we know that if it were brown, it turned dark. So out of both of those images, then who fits it? Does he have white, woolish hair? Does he have white, woolish hair? Or does he have white? Or I can even take it to you in this direction. Okay? I can show you the actual picture of let's see. Of a man, of a black man who would have brass. Okay, let's take his image then, since it, rather than to have a cartoon image, then we'll just take an actual image of a black face. Now his hair is not completely wool, it's white, but it is somewhat woolly, but it's not as thick and woolly as other textures of black hair can be. But it shows that his eyes are kind of reddish, but his skin is brass. Now, and then his mustache and his beard, because understand that Hebrews wear beards. Okay, so let your beards grow. But his hair is a better image of what the Messiah would have looked like. White with woolish hair on his head, and hairs on his face, facial hair, and this is brass skin. But his skin was as if it burned in a furnace, so it would be more like this type of color down here, the darker brass, if it were burned in a furnace. Why? Because when we burn something in a furnace, it gets dark. So that would be more of an image in reality, or in real life, of the Messiah. That would give you a better depiction. But this was the one, and I'll eventually get to that. Okay. Okay, so where were we? We're talking about, okay, I done lost where I was. Okay, anyways, all right, we're gonna, oh, I think I was here, maybe. But anyway, if I was not here, I was reading in Psalms 74 about how they were destroying, this is how a lot of our past disappeared, because our images were set on fire, and so were the churches. They were destroyed. And so these are just pictures of them destroying images. I mean, not to say that they were our images, but just showing how a lot of our stuff back, even though they're destroying this, and I don't know whose images they're actually destroying, but the thing is that we went through this, where they came in, the Gentiles came in to sabotage and to destroy everything that was to do with us. And I'll show you more images to give you a better idea of what I'm meaning. And I mean, you know, going out of their way to destroy. Okay. To just sabotage and to destroy. Now that don't really look like one of our images, because our hair would not be kind of straight. But this is a depiction of what we went through, which was sabotaging. And you know, if we don't, if you take our churches and everything we have, then you know, how can we, our little ones know? So this is them destroying. You know, and actually that's what they're supposed to do. If they are new in the land, they take over the land, or whatever the case may be in the land, God instructs you to destroy their images and all that. But so they came in and destroyed ours. But see, it was God's will because of our disobedience. See, this is the whole thing. Now this could be something that we would have done, because we did a lot of carvings within the walls. And you can see he's coming to tear down that wall. So that possibly could have to do with us, because a lot of our carvings was in walls. Okay, same thing. And these are just pictures of them destroying. That's an Egyptian and all types of stuff. And them just basically tearing down. And this is the Sphinx, and it shows, and it's amazing, the noses. You notice that the Sphinx nose has been shot off, because the Sphinx is a real tall figure, right? As with the pyramids. And someone managed to knock off his nose, probably shot it off with a gun or something. You see the side where the Sphinx does not have a nose, you know, and then they burned the images. Not just images of portrait images, but even books. Now this is a more modernized photo, because you can tell by the way he's dressed. He's not dressed in ancient attire or anything, so that's a more modernized picture. But that's just to give you an idea of what happened in our past as well. But I want to show you this. It is something about the nose, our noses, that bother people. This, you see how broad his nose is? You know, it's amazing that our noses bothers Gentiles. Okay, you see how we have a kind of broader nose. For the most part, my nose is kind of small, but most of us have kind of wide, broad noses and thick lips. And his eyes is kind of wide and slanted. His nose is broad, and he's got the thicker lips. He looked like he's probably a little plump guy. Kind of plump, but they don't look, neither one of them look skinny. See, these are images of, you could tell that these were black people, no doubt about it. Look at the broad nose and look at the thick lips. This was a statue of a black. So it says, when the Europeans saw the statues looked nothing like them, they knocked the noses off and told you Egyptians, we're European and Arabic. How convenient. So that was somebody's opinion, but it is something about the noses. Look at all these noses that have been destroyed. It is something about, and yet when they saw all the work that they have accomplished, all the big statues, they couldn't believe that, to look at the type of people we were, that we could be someone who could do such, could actually do these types of feats. But the noses is gone, the Sphinx, they're just knocking, just tearing up our stuff. Even though we're not to create images, but then the Lord does let us know if it's to do with Him, to keep us in remembrance of Him. Now look at that nose and look at them lips. These are clearly blacks. Okay? These are clearly black people. Look at the lips and the nose, and you know that they are black. Broad nose. He's got a longer nose, and his lips aren't as thick as these two. Kind of, his lips are a little smaller, but he's got the nose. So it's just a lot that has gone on. I just don't understand what is up with the noses. Now, they didn't knock off his nose. I guess they couldn't get to it. But there's people around. Maybe they're guarding it to make sure it can't nobody. But these are Egyptians. You can tell by their attire that these are Egyptians, artifacts or statues. And this is kind of a comparison of a statue. His nose had been knocked off, and you see he's got the locks that looks like his locks. Okay, so he looks very similar to that statue. I mean, it's amazing how destructive people are when it comes to other people's property. But they would think you were wronger than two left shoes if you had destroyed their property. You're wrong when you do wrong to them, but it's okay for them to do wrong to you. Okay. And here's a statue that resembles the surgical Michael Jackson. It just has an image of Michael Jackson. But see, you really can't compare him to this image because of so much surgery he's had. He's not in his natural form that he would have been in. But he just, after surgical procedures, just happened to resemble that statue. And there's another nose knocked off, and we just seen a statue of him. And here's a girl that looks just like these Africans. I mean, her hair, she looks just like them. I don't know if they were Egyptian or not, but she definitely has their exact image, the hairstyle. Except that's her hair that's just shaped in the form of the cap they have, but she looks just like them. Look at that straight nose, and somewhat broad lips, but that nose is very straight, and just, and her eyes are not as big as their eyes, but she is definitely very similar to those photos. And there's the Sphinx again. Noses, all these noses just being knocked off. I don't know what is up with that. And not all whites or other ethnic groups have straight nose. Some of them, their noses are broad. And as a matter of fact, when we go back to this nose here, so you could tell that this person here did not have a broad nose. Why? Because the nose stopped there. It didn't spread across her face. it just basically went down. So somebody just has a problem with the noses on blacks, whether it's big or not, because she didn't have a big nose and they still knocked hers off. Now that's a flat nose. It's not too much you can do to knock that off. So that's a good thing. There's another one, and these are just pictures of somebody hating on blacks' noses. I mean, really. And it's not about the size of the nose. They just hate black noses. And see, it's just lots of images. His don't look too bad. I mean, I don't understand what the deal is with having to just be destructive. Why is it, I mean, instead of knocking the nose off, why didn't you just destroy the entire statue? Because there's probably so many of them that would have been so extremely exhausting for them that they just said, okay, well, there's too many statues, we'll just do some damage to them, you know. So, I don't know what to say with these people. But people hating on the noses of blacks. Okay, so that's it for, okay, now we're getting to the Hebrews awakening. And that's what's going on today at the mark of 400 years. That God has had us across the nations. And we know that and what's amazing about us is that we're reverting back to our natural hair. Whether it's in an afro style, whether it's just fluffed up, twist and it's just fluffed up, whether it's just a big, now that's really thickness of a sheep. And he also has brass skin, dark brass skin. Now he would definitely fit into the category of a Hebrew. Okay, so we're going to kind of move on through these folders because I want to knock off as much as I can today. This is a man that's wearing locks. As you can notice, his beard is fine. He's got a finer, greater hair than coarse. But his locks, he's probably been growing since birth, is wrapped around his head, and then he's got it just wrapped around him like a necklace. I mean, that's a whole lot of hair. And his skin is, now he's got skin that will be as if it were burned in a furnace. Dark skin, but he just has a straight nose, little eyes. You can't really see his mouth or lips because they're hidden behind his beard. But he kind of reminds me of the dark Indians, where they're just as black people, but their hair is of a different, their hair is not coarse. Because if you look at his beard looks like a white person's beard. Black people's beards would be a lot thicker than that. But his skin is definitely the color of brass. But that's a blessing to live to be his age. A lot of kids aren't living even half his age, and these are locks. Okay, locks and a beard. Locks. And these are called, excuse me, French braids or corn rolls. My daughter's hair stayed in that for the majority of the time that she was in school, since I had to work. And yeah, you can wash corn rolls. All you got to do is wet the hair, put a little shampoo on a rag, like a wash rag or a washcloth, and just damp it real good all over the hair, and it will suck up all the dirt in the hair. Then you just get a little grease and just go over the braids again and along the parts to keep it fresh. But yeah, my daughter, I did her hair every 2 weeks, I believe, and her hair got so much growth, I could actually lift the braid up off of her scalp. That's just how much growth she would get. And then, jealous relatives one time messed her hair up, and so she was young and she didn't know that they were jealous. And so I asked them if they could help her take down her fringe braids, and next thing I come and her hair was practically pulled all out. So I just didn't say nothing. I was just thinking to myself, people are so evil. So you just, what's done was what was done. What was done was done. All I did was just start working to get her hair back growing again. That's all I could do. Now these are beards that our black men are reverting back to today. They are coming back to their beards, and that's an awesome thing, because they wore beards in biblical times, just as they wore locks. David allowed spittle to run down his beard so that the Philistines would think that he was mad and would not look at him as a threat. But we did wear beards. Okay. And you can just go down here. I didn't know, well, I guess the beard is like the chin, but it just talks about beards and whatnot. And so, okay, and it talks about beards in the Bible. Okay, well, I don't wear a beard, so I don't have really too much of a comment about beards, other than just to be just glad that they're coming back to whom they are. Now we already know that what's the truth and what's a lie on that one. Okay, so they're coming back to their original beards, their original traditional beards. So, and there's a beard, and there's a beard. Now see, one thing, you see how thick and coarse and bushy that beard is? You know, somebody said blacks can't grow beards because they would just have a fro face or something like that. But I know that blacks can grow beards. Okay, I mean, does that look like a fro face to you? That's a beard. Okay, so blacks, understand, you are very much capable of growing beards. Let your beards grow. That's your culture, is to grow beards. Just like locks are our culture as well. Okay, and understand that, I know you're saying, well, the Jews that are over there now have thick woolly beards. No. They might be able to tease their beards to have the appearance of wool, but if you were to tell them to go and swim across that pool, by the time they get to the other edge of that long, lengthy pool, that beard will be a whole nother texture. All of that woolness that you saw in that beard will dissipate, and it will be nothing but stringy, straggly strings of hair, wet. But this one, you can tell him, swim across that exact same pool, and when he gets to the edge, his beard will look exactly like this. It will just have water dripping all down it, but the texture and the form of his beard will not change, because it is coarse. That's his actual thick, coarse of hair, and it will not change. That's why he calls it wool. You could put a lamb in water, he gets out the water, he's still going to have the same wool hair. But if you put something that's not wool, it may, if it's not the original wool, then it may change. Okay, so these beards are what you call wool beards. Wool, and he's got wool. Let me see, he's got locks as well. Okay, he's got both going on. He's got the locks or the twist type of locks, and then he's got the nicely trimmed beard. So black men, revert back to your beards. That's your culture. Okay, and I see that many of you have, and I'm glad that you are, because you're coming back to yourself. You're waking up to whom you are. Okay, and that's what we need to do, is come back to who we are as a people, and God will help us with the rest. Now, I want to show you a people. Throughout, if you go beyond the borders of the U.S., you will find out the more truth than you will hear. Because as the Messiah is described, you know, here it shows him having brass skin like it was burned in a furnace, but they have, this is like almost an image of the image here in the U.S., but the skin is black and the hair is long and black. But what these people are trying to show you is that they know truth, and they know who the Messiah was, and they're acknowledging it because they know Scripture. This here is referred to in international countries as the Black Messiah. The Black Nazarene. Type that in Google, Black Nazarene, and you will see multitudes of people multitudes of non-blacks reverencing a Black Messiah. It says Feast of the Black Nazarene. Feast of the Black Nazarene. Now, these people all here are non-blacks. These are Filipinos. If any of you when God brings you into your land and he gets you set up and established, if you make any of these people your servants, I pray that God will knock you down, will put you beneath their feet, because these people are acknowledging truth. It tells you here, because see, the thing is that don't think, I really, okay, you always going to have somebody that's got to show off. I mean, it's amazing. But okay, I want you to understand this and get this in your being. It says, now this is him telling Abraham, and he's talking about Abraham's seed. It says, I will bless them that bless thee. This is God telling Abraham, I'm going to bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. Now notice he said with the blessings is them as in more than one, but with the curses it says him as if it's not going to be as many. It says, and in thee and in us shall all the families of the earth be blessed. He didn't say cursed, he said blessed. God is going to destroy all of our enemies that are going to be stubborn and not come and worship before our feet. Those are the ones he's going to, those nations are going to perish anyway. So they're going to fall up under curse him. They're going to fall up under those. But these individuals here fall up under the them, blessing them. And in thee and in us shall all the families of the earth be blessed. Okay? Understand also, it says, and other sheep I have, and other sheep I have, which are not of this fold. They're not us. Them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. So they're going to be a part of us who are for us. Okay, it says if they're not against us, then they're for our part. Okay, forbid them not. If they're not against them, then they're for our part. Understand that if they're not against us, then they're for us. And this is the Messiah. I mean, this is in oh no, that's not what I'm looking for. Wait a minute. This would be in New Testament scripture, I know. I knew. It says, for he that is not against us is on our part. If they're not our enemies, if they're not against us, then they're not to be dealt with as an enemy. Okay, they're not to be used as servitude, because they're acknowledging that they right now, because they know prophecy. Understand that people, see, even though they don't speak what we speak, we have lost our language as a result of the clan. Thank you very much. But what comes around is going to go around. And I'm going to show you that. But it says this is the feast of the Black Nazarene. These individuals here, and we don't have to know who they are. Why? Because God is going to give us discernment. He's going to make us to know who our enemies are. And he's going to reveal to us who our enemies are and who our friends are. Okay? The Feast of the Black Nazarene. This is at nighttime. At night. And the multitude and the streets are still filled with these Filipinos that are celebrating a black Nazarene, a black Messiah, a black Christ. Okay? Okay, I just wanted to make sure I didn't skip any. And then this is September 1st, 2020. So this is when the next one is going to be, because this is April 2020. So it's letting you know that September the 1st, there's going to be a feast. And this is the Black Nazarene, you know. And these people are very serious about this belief because they know scripture. Okay? It says January 9th feast. And see, the thing is, so that it's no mistaking in who they are reverencing. They're saying right here, you could say, oh, well, that's probably another God. No, it's not another God. Because they made it clear to you right here who they're reverencing. They consider the Black Nazarene Feast of Jesus, the Black Nazarene. So if you're trying to say, oh, that's just another God they created, no. They're telling you that the Jesus, the one you call Jesus, is their Black Nazarene. Okay? So don't get it twisted. Okay? They're on page with who the Messiah is. But they're letting you know that they don't call him Jesus because they know Jesus isn't a possibility. They call him the Black Nazarene. Okay? These are just more images. Well, let me see what that reads if I can. Oh, excuse me. Okay, this is another location that's reverencing the Black Nazarene. Capalonga. Okay, Black Nazarene of Capalonga. So there are different international countries and cities that are acknowledging truth. In America, they will never acknowledge the truth. They will not ever tell you who you are. They're too busy keeping you beneath their feet than tell you whom they are. Then will ever acknowledge to you whom they are. They acknowledge him for Thanksgiving, and I also think for Good Friday as well, if I'm not mistaken. And this is their parade. I mean, look at how many people it is. The Philippine capital. And this is how he looks when he's not being paraded in the streets. I'm pretty sure he's guarded 24/7, because you always got somebody that will come and hate. So they probably have 24-hour surveillance, you know, because that many people, they are extremely serious about this feast of the Black Nazarene. They are very serious, because you can look at the multitudes of them that they truly believe what they are feasting. They've truly believe and look forward to this feast. Look at that multitude of them. And this is an aerial view looking down. It says, incredible scenes from Manila's Black Nazarene procession. So this is in Manila, or Manila, and that's in the Philippines. But look at that crowd. I mean, just feel the streets. Just feel the streets. Wow. And the Messiah is probably like here, possibly, but I could be wrong. So it's things outside these international states that people here would not want you to know. But there's a such thing called the internet. Okay, and the internet makes it possible for you to learn what's going on outside the borders of the U.S. It says, look, Black Nazarene procession in Pagania de Oro in 2019. So these are international locations other than outside of the U.S. Because in the U.S. they will never let you know these things. It's not designed for you to know. It's just designed for you to at least have some food in your mouth and a few clothes on your back, and to just keep you blinded from whom you are as a person, so that God's prophecies can be hindered or prolonged or sabotaged. Okay, there's another of the Nazarene, and even CNN is getting in on it. CNN in the Philippines is getting in on it. Feast of the Black Nazarene. Black Nazarene in bold print. And then CNN Philippines. I mean, just people everywhere. And this is nighttime. I mean, their feast, when they feast, they are no joke. It's no such thing as it's getting evening. This is nighttime, and they are still going strong, because their faith is strong. Look at this individual here. Now you tell me if that is not a face of sincerity. I mean, he is just holding on to a part of the Messiah's, what they have bought here is calling the cross, because you know he had to carry his own cross. But look at him. I mean, my God, how much sincere of a face can you even think to see? I mean, he is holding on to his God. I mean, he believes that with all his heart and with all his soul. Remember when God said that you need to come back to him with all your heart and with all your soul? This is all of your heart and all of your soul. Come back to your God with all you got. And he's not even Hebrew, but he's going to be blessed. Why? Him and his seed is going to be blessed, because I have these documented pictures to prove that they are our friends. They are for us. They are our allies. They are our other foe that's going to be blessed just like we're going to be blessed. I mean, when they pour riches to us, if they have a need, we're going to pour riches to them. They're not going to want anything. They're not, as long as I'm alive, they're not going to want anything. And those of you who make it hard for them, I'm already going to curse you. Don't you even think to come against any of these people. Don't even think it. Because my curses are already set against anybody that will come against the other fold of God. It is already set. You come against them, you will fall. Because, see, I'm not a prejudiced person. I'm the type of person that I'm just going to call it like it is. Okay? We messed up. We got whooped double for our sins. And that was our fault. So learn from your mistakes. Don't be getting mad, and don't you go around these people flexing your muscle acting a fool, because my prayer against and universally against will knock you down, whether I'm here or not. My words will still stand with my YAH God. So do not come against these people, or you will fall. Hebrews, okay? Because God has other folds in they or them. This is nighttime, completely dark, and they are still reverencing, and I mean taking good care of the Messiah. I mean, they are protecting him and shielding him and all about him. I mean, they're serious because they know prophecy. I mean, they know prophecy. Absolutely no doubt about. And because of their faith and because of their works, they're going to be shielded. They're going to be our dear friends. Not just a friend. They're going to be our dear friends. Because see, you got to remember that God is going to bless everything about us. And you make sure you bless everything about them. Pray for them that they'll be in good health. That God will keep them on every side, as with yourself. Because they are our friends. This is a sign of humility, as we had spoken a little earlier. It says here, during the feast of the Black Nazarene, thousands of barefoot men joined the annual procession. Walking barefoot during the profession is seen as a sign of humility. Barefootedness. You know, barefootedness is a sign of humility. It's just like when the people who mistreated us, he says that our enemies are going to kiss our feet, and there's going to be some that'll rather die, and they're going to do just that, die. And because they were disobedient to the will of God, they're going to go to hell. So they're going to wish that they had kissed our feet when they had the chances. I would rather kiss my enemy's feet than to end up in hell. Now this is a bridge. And look at how they are just everywhere. I mean, this is just how sincere these people are in following our Yahushua God. I mean, our Yahushua Messiah. This is just how sincerely strong they are in knowing, believing, and expecting prophecy. These people know prophecy. They know that things are going to change. And when that change takes place, they are shielded. Their actions, they have enough to show you, look, we know who you are. When you come back, we know you're going to come back into your land. We know God's word. And we know that you're going to return to your land and God is going to bless you. And guess what? Remember us. Remember us. When God brings you back to your land and he lifts you up so greatly and puts all these nations before your feet, remember us. Yes, we will remember you. We most certainly will. Because if I'm alive, I better not hear anybody mistreating you all. Because I believe me, my voice will rise. And only God will be able to stop me. Because I don't fear man. If I don't fear death, then of course I don't fear man. Okay? Man can only destroy the body, but God can destroy both body and then your soul. And see, these yellow ones, or like the ones who are handling his the procession, and they're kind of like people that are keeping the crowd back so that they don't, because you know, you have to understand that a crowd wants a like a souvenir, you see, and they'll be ready to cut off pieces of his garment and take pieces of his hair and just completely disassemble him, you know, because they want to take a piece of him and have it in their home, and that would be like a symbol or a treasure to them. And then, you know, some people think that when they have a piece of something that it'll be such a blessing, and I'll be this, that, and the other and all that, when God is your trust. You got to remember that that's an image. That's a man-made doll figured image. What they're doing with this image is proclaiming to the world that we know prophecy, and we are adhering to prophecy because we know what's going to happen. And this is them just filling the bridges. They are everywhere. There's no way in the world you could say that these people are our enemies. No way. Absolutely no way. I mean, look at the turnout. The multitudes of people. I mean, where have you ever seen a multitude of people like this here in the States, in these states, over the white Jesus? Have you ever seen this type of crowd showing up for the white Jesus? No, you're not. You've never seen these type of performances. And this rope, I think I had read a little earlier that the rope is a symbol. I mean, people, they hold the rope and let people touch the rope, and that's supposed to help, I mean, create blessings for their homes or something like that. That they have the rope, because not everybody can get anywhere near the Messiah. It's just too much of a multitude. So they have a long rope, and people touch the rope, and it blesses them or something to that degree. It's supposed to be a blessing or something. It's like a symbol of a blessing, you know. That's where I had read somewhere. So when you see this rope going through the crowd, that's allowing people to touch it, and it's supposed to ensure a blessing. Because, you know, but it's amazing the turnout. So understand that these Filipinos, and it's not a race thing, it's not a race thing, it's a God-fearing thing. No, they're not Hebrew, but they are God's other fold that God is going to bring in with him, with us. Okay, they're a part of us, because they're God's other fold. So that makes them a part of us. They may not be Hebrew, but they are part of God's fold, as we just read, that he must bring in. Why? Because they're following truth. They're acknowledging truth. None of them are black, but and there's not even a black in the crowd, but they know scripture. You know, that's just like when Hitler read that they came and took God's jewelry. Why? Because God said that we're his treasure. He views us as his treasure. And so God, that's why Hitler said that they took God's jewelry. And then when the fake Jews were trying to come in that land, he was trying to prevent it from how the story goes. I don't know how true it is, but it's so much lies and deceit in this society. I'm to the point I don't even listen to nothing that is taught in this society anymore. But look at the crowd. Have you ever seen this type of crowd for the white Jesus here in America? I never have. I have never seen this type of crowd ever. Look at that. Have you ever seen this? Such a show up of people that they just fill the streets, they fill the bridges, they just fill the land. I mean, we're talking, look at the bodies, the water. I mean, no traffic can even flow when no traffic can move. Look at these vehicles here. When the Black Feast, the Black Messiah's feast is in operation, everything stands still. Nothing can move. You can't get no vehicle through that. Look at all these people there. They have blocked it. I mean, you know, they have blocked off all the streets. I mean, you cannot take a vehicle in there because the people are everywhere. I mean, there's just no way that a vehicle can move down in this area. People are everywhere. And that is faith. If you ever want to know faith, look at these people here. That is sincere and a sincere outpouring of what they truly believe. Look at this. The whole bridge is just filled with people. I mean, people have boats, even have the boats out. They even came out with their boats. But this is just a bridge filled with people. No, nothing is bypassing that. You can't, because there's people completely filling that bridge. Awesome faith. Awesome. I mean, I applaud them because they don't speak our language, but they have sense enough to say, we don't speak English, but guess what? We'll show you. And you've done a job well done. I am thoroughly impressed. I am thoroughly impressed. Look at all these people. I mean, just completely, there's not even hardly any room. Just completely fills the complete streets, the complete bridges. I mean, you better not mess with these people. If I hear of any of you Hebrews messing with these people, I'm gonna ask the Lord to knock you down in ways you never dreamt possible. This is faith. Look at all these people everywhere, acknowledging who the Messiah truly is in their own language. I doubt seriously that they can even speak English. But it's not in words, it's in deed. Okay? It's not in words, but in deeds. Where's deed at? Okay, but anyway, it says, for the kingdom of God is not in word, but power. But it says also indeed that it's not in your words, it's in your actions. It says, my little children, let us not love in word, neither in tongue, but in deed and in truth. I got to attach that to this. My little children, let us not love in words, neither in tongue, but in deed, in your actions, and in truth. And they're walking in absolute truth because they know Scripture. I'm going to have to attach that to these photos because that is so accurate with them. And these are our brethren. Maybe not in like blood, but they're our brethren indeed. So it's not about your words, it's about your actions. Understand that. These people don't have to speak English because their actions spoke beyond their words. Okay? Okay. So, what was that? Excuse me. Where were we? I'm sorry. So their deeds speak much louder than words. Much louder than words. Wow. Awesome. Awesome. And they will be a protected people because of their deeds. It's not about them being able to speak for us to understand. It is what we see in action of their beliefs. And they are following truth. It's in deed and in truth. Here's another sign of humility where where many people are barefooted. Okay? Where many people are barefooted. It's a sign of humility. And understand that all these people are non-black. See, we are outside of our land. These are not black hands. These are pale hands. They're probably not the hands of the people that we're accustomed to seeing where we are currently at now. But these people, no, let me back that up. There's one dark hand right there. Where did I see it? Okay, there's a kind of dark looking hand there. But then some of them could be dark in complexion. But these are pale hands. And they are acknowledging God's truths. And because they're acknowledging God's truths, God has placed them openly. Because see, when we come into what God has for us, there's going to be a whole lot of people trying to pass. People who really hate us, but they're going to be trying to